The year's 2025, and Baker Mayfield is the best quarterback in football. To go from being viewed as this young, immature distraction of a quarterback who was written off as a bust to one of the grittiest, toughest, most talented players in the NFL, a potential MVP candidate, talk about a comeback story. And this is no fluke, because Baker Mayfield isn't going anywhere. He's right where he belongs, at the top of the NFL. He's been humbled time and time again throughout his career, and yet he's never let that keep him down. He's fought through the adversities, he's overcame the obstacles, and he's finally proven to everybody else what he's known the whole time. If Baker Mayfield continues to play like this the rest of the season, and I couldn't give you a reason why he wouldn't, then he is walking away with the MVP. Because things have been far from easy for the Buccaneers all year long. And while the team may have an incredible record right now, each win has been harder than the last, with every game coming down to the final minute, week after week. And the only reason the Buccaneers come out on top, seemingly every time, is because of Baker Mayfield. Every week, the offense around Baker Mayfield has been completely different. They currently have two O-linemen on the IR. Tristan Wirfs has missed the beginning of the season due to knee surgery, and that's not even touching on the skill position players. You have Chris Godwin, who's only played 2 games so far. Reason being, he was out because of a crazy freak injury that happened to him last season, though he has looked good in his return. Mike Evans has only played in half of the game so far, though he should be set to return soon. Bucky Irving, one of the few bright spots on this offense, he's been incredible in the games he's played. He's currently out with an injury. The only consistent weapon that Baker Mayfield seems to have week after week is their rookie first-round pick, Emeka Egbuka, the kid from Ohio State who the Buccaneers seemingly have their future riding on. And if you're going to put your future on anybody, it's great that it's Egbuka, because he is a top 5 wide receiver currently. So far this season, Egbuka has been playing like a top 5 wideout, and that's because of his connection with Baker Mayfield. It was almost instantaneous, and it seems to be getting better after every single week. I mean, his performance against the Seattle Seahawks, yeah, that's going down as one of the greatest rookie performances from a wide receiver that we've ever seen. And it's only going to get better. He's only going to have more weeks like that as the season progresses. As long as there were no injuries that come Egbuka's way, he is easily eclipsing 1,000 yards. Hell, he might even hit 1,500 by the end of the season. He is getting far more touchdowns than games played. I can promise you that, because if there's one thing Egbuka can do really well, it's find the end zone. And Baker Mayfield seemingly knows exactly where he's going to be on every single play. It's incredible to watch this offense run, especially because they're having to do it with new players every single week. I mean, the lineup is constantly changing, and yet Baker Mayfield is always adapting. And we'll talk more about Baker Mayfield and this explosive Buccaneers offense in a second, but for right now, I want to remind you guys to slow down, like the video, and subscribe to the channel. We're on the road to 10,000 subscribers, and every subscription is greatly appreciated, so please subscribe. Now, this isn't the first year that Baker has done something like this. Just a year ago, he led the Buccaneers to the playoffs. With a 10-7 record, he played incredibly for the Buccaneers last season. So honestly, an MVP year like this should have been seen coming. I mean, he went out and threw for 41 touchdowns, a career high. He threw for 4,500 passing yards. He had career highs in basically every statistical category a year ago, and yet he's doing even better this season. Now, he did have 16 interceptions, but if there's one thing he's improved on from last season, it's the turnovers. They have not been happening at the same frequency this season as they had been for the entirety of his career. Hell, you could argue that Baker's been back since joining the Buccaneers. He was in running for Comeback Player of the Year in 2023, and if you're wondering what he came back from, it was playing like ass. But was he ever really that bad is the question. You see, he was with the Cleveland Browns for the first half of his career. He played 4 seasons for the Browns. He took them to the playoffs. He won a playoff game for the Cleveland Browns. That's how good he was, okay? He had surpassed everybody's expectations as the #1 overall pick. He was living up to the hype in Cleveland, and yet they moved on from him because they believed he was the reason that the Browns weren't able to get over the hump. They saw the possibility of going out and getting a guy like Deshaun Watson, and they did that. One of the biggest mistakes the Browns have made, and the Browns have made a shit ton of mistakes. Now, Baker Mayfield's career almost died because of this. He went to Carolina, where he was going to compete with Sam Darnold for a job. Thankfully, things didn't work out in Carolina, but they did get so bad to the point where he was almost out of the league, up until Sean McVay called. And with only a few days' notice, he was playing on prime time with the LA Rams. He knew absolutely nothing about the Rams offense, and yet he led them towards a game-winning drive against the Las Vegas Raiders that saved his career. You can easily point back to the moment in which things flipped for Baker Mayfield. It was that game-winning drive against the Las Vegas Raiders. And speaking of game-winning drives, it seems to be happening to Baker Mayfield on a weekly basis this season because he has led them down the field every single game, it feels like. I mean, if we were to look at week 1 in his performance against the Atlanta Falcons, a divisional win, that was huge for the Buccaneers to start their season. He went out and he threw for 3 touchdowns, had 167 passing yards, and it came down to the wire for the Buccaneers. With a little over 2 minutes left in this game, the Buccaneers were down by 3 points, and it was Baker Mayfield's job to not only get them down the field, but into the end zone. And of course, a guy like Baker is going to rally his team, and that's exactly what happened. Whether it be a pass to Mike Evans, whether it be a 10-yard pass to Sterling Shepard, it doesn't matter because he found Egbuka for a 25-yard touchdown to take the lead. And then the Falcons go and they miss their field goal attempt, and the Buccaneers win week 1. And if you thought that was a crazy ending, you're in for one hell of a ride, because Buccaneer fans have been on heart attack watch every week of the season. If we were to jump to week 2 against the Houston Texans, it was one of the ugliest games I've seen all year. I mean, this was probably the worst offensive game that the Buccaneers have produced this season. It was a rough watch. And the Buccaneers found themselves down to a lackluster Houston team by 5 points with, again, a little over 2 minutes to go. It seems like Baker Mayfield always finds himself in this position, but thankfully his connection with Bucky Irving was essentially enough to get them down the length of the football field. Now, they did find themselves in one hell of a rough spot halfway through the drive. It was 4th and 10, but thankfully all Baker had to do was scramble for 15 yards. He got the first down, and it ended with a Rachaad White 2-yard rush into the end zone to take the lead. And the Buccaneers had basically left no time on the clock. They win week 2 in essentially the same fashion that they won week 1 in. And then they go up against the New York Jets. Now, this game was very different. The Buccaneers looked dominant in the first half. It was like the Jets didn't stand a chance. They got out to a 23-6 lead, and it looked like the game was already over by half. But then the Jets stumbled their way into this game, and it was mistake after mistake for the Buccaneers. And that led to them having to go down the length of the field yet again to make another comeback to win this game. Now, they were down by 1 point, so, Baker Mayfield didn't need to score a touchdown this time. However, there was 1 minute and 49 seconds left on the clock. And here Baker had to go in the 3rd straight week and get them into field goal range. Now, Egbuka did help with that because he caught a 28-yard pass from Baker Mayfield. So all of a sudden, things were rolling pretty quickly. And the next thing you know, Baker Mayfield hits that knee that he needs to set up his field goal kicker. And Chase McLaughlin hits a 36-yarder to seal the game and beat the New York Jets. And that was just the first 3 weeks of the NFL season. Now, week 4, they did go up against the Eagles. They lost that game. We won't really cover it, but all you need to know is that they were in a position to win it again. However, the magic kind of wore off, and Baker Mayfield wasn't able to get them into the end zone and win that game. But you can't ask for him to do that every week, and it seems like the Buccaneers have asked for him to do that every week. But this brings us to week 5, okay? An absolute shootout against the Seattle Seahawks. You have Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield, who just a few years ago were in the exact same spot. They were drafted really high. Then the Jets let go of Sam Darnold. They gave up on him the same way the Browns gave up on Baker Mayfield. They both find themselves in Carolina competing for a job where their careers were essentially over but then they find new teams and they revive their career. Now Sam Darnold is with the Seahawks and Baker is with the Bucs, and both had incredible performances, one of the craziest games I've seen, and they were both wearing their throwback jerseys. Honestly, visually, this was one of the prettiest games, okay? Baker Mayfield, 379 passing yards, and if you think that's crazy, Sam Darnold had 341. They were going touchdown for touchdown. This looked like a classic Peyton Manning versus Drew Brees kind of game. Tom Brady versus, Phillip Rivers. This was what they were playing at. This is the kind of offense we were seeing with our own eyes. And you guessed it, the Buccaneers found themselves down again, this time by a touchdown, but with 3 minutes left. So, Baker has more time to cook than usual. Hell, he has more time to bake than usual. And it was pretty easy for them to march down the field. I mean, Baker threw a 25-yard pass to Egbuka, really helped. Then he threw a 25-yard pass to Cade Otton. Again, another great help. And next thing you know, he's throwing an 11-yard pass to Sterling Shepard for a touchdown to tie this game up 35 apiece. Then the defense makes a really important stop, gets Baker Mayfield and this offense the ball back with less than a minute to go. Everybody thought this game was going into overtime. They were wrong, because Rachaad White had other plans. He rushes, he gets the team into field goal range, and Cade McLaughlin comes up clutch once again. He hits a 39-yarder to win this game, and this is where we find ourselves currently. Hell, by the time this video is out, the Buccaneers have already beat the San Francisco 49ers to move to 5-1 on the season, and they did it with no Egbuka this time, their best offensive player. That's how great this Buccaneers team has been all year long. Now, they are in a pretty easy division, The Panthers don't know what the hell they're going to do with Bryce Young. The Saints are the worst team in football, even though Spencer Rattler looks pretty good. And maybe the Falcons are supposed to stand up to them, but even then, Michael Penix has been, hot one game, terrible the next. So with the Buccaneers only playing one divisional game so far, and their record being 5-1, I can easily see them dominating the rest of their division for the entirety of the year. And with the Buccaneers schedule, there's a real chance that this team not only wins their division, but wins the conference. We'll see, all right? But anyway, that's about it for this video. Just wanted to talk Buccaneer football, Baker Mayfield. Catch y'all later. Much love. Deuces.